say the top is a side, just a side you really don't want to be on. At the same time, we have enough people in the vehicle right now that we can back it
Oh, I like your tattoo.
Gotta keep it close to the heart.
Your tattoos. There's such a difference in quality with Brembo. You get a whole pamphlet of information here. Of course, it's just one page of instructions. Very thoughtful of them to even tell you to check the run out of the axles and everything. Stuff that other places just go, oh yeah, didn't you check that? You should have checked that. So it's all very important to read all the instructions because you want to make sure that each manufacturer specific procedure is followed. What I mean by that is, look at the very last paragraph there in German. Road test the vehicle. Do not stab the brakes or keep the pedal depressed for more than 3 seconds. Make sure there's no noise or vibration. The user of the vehicle should run in the new discs and pads for at least 200 kilometers, applying the brakes gently and sparingly and without activating the ABS. Other places are like, yeah, dude, just, get up to speed, slam them brakes, and then let it cool down without coming to a stop. These guys are like, nah, just take it easy. Which is actually a lot easier than one of those 60 to 30, back to 60, down to 30 tests. Akebono, the other non-OEM recommended brand, equivalent, it says make sure you use only Akebono lubricants or else you'll have a warranty void. Everything here looks pretty standard. They recommend washing the rotor with warm soapy water to remove residue and metal fillings. We don't need to worry about that because we're not going to be using a lathe. We have this and we're just going to spray it with some brake cleaner. I was wondering why my axle clunk got significantly more noticeable. I'm missing the bolt entirely. It's not even on the wheel. I think what happened is it may have come off during the tire balance because if it was backing its way out over time and then they just pulled the wheel off and then rolled it away, the axle nut may have fallen to the ground and then they come back to like, hey, what's this nut? Oh, somebody must have kicked it over here. And then they kicked it away themselves. Just how politicians are always kicking the can down the road instead of addressing the issue at hand. I gotta order new nuts. All right, what I'm gonna do is order the IPD, look at this stuff. Ugh. I'm gonna order the IPD kit that I think is for the rubber spacers inside to get rid of the clunk too. Pretty sure this axle's not all the way in either. Yeah, it should be coming out a little further than that. Another thing I'm gonna do, re-grease this if you do have your nut in place still and it is clunky. Re-grease it and throw it back in. Should I make Discount Tire buy me new axle nuts? No, they're not going to because they're gonna just cheap out, and even if they manage to get them without having to buy a CV axle, they're not gonna be the IPD kit that's going to stop the clunk, which is a common issue on these cars. It would just be like me being a grumpy customer to have them put the Band-Aid back on a problem that needs to be corrected by an aftermarket solution. This is what we started with back in May. The grooved, very poorly warped rotors. This is what we upgraded to back in May. Really janky Pro Stop brand. And now, got our Brembos to match our OEM setup with the Brembo. This is the amount of play that you can get in the old one. It's not torn, not dry or ripped. I would say it's actually in good shape. Let's see the back. Back one's bad though. Look at that. Although it's really just these little rubber guys inside of here. That's so funny. All right, but let's look at this piece. Dude, I can't get it to budge with my hands. It's just that tight. I'm gonna clean these guys up. All right, those can get pretty tight. They're 18 millimeter size nuts. I don't know why such a weird size. Either they went American with these cars, or figured out they could go one size smaller. Ooh. This, in addition to putting in new axle nuts, should be a much more solid front end. You know what else would be a good investment? Those IPD polyurethane subframe inserts. This is all wrinkly paint that you're looking at. The rubber looks There's this company in Poland that has these polyurethane bits, which are basically what IPD is selling for the axle ping that you get. This essentially takes up the gap that is just shown here in this picture. You see right here, that little bit of slop right there. You see this bolt will go all the way in, hit the end, and have a little bit of a gap here. So this polyurethane bit kind of takes up that extra slop. And I already went through and tightened my bolt, and like I said, one's already gone. So I don't want to pay 30 bucks for this. I'd rather pay 31.90 zloty, which is Polish money. It's 55.90 for both of them at the moment. Using these Polish ones, we're looking at, who knows what, I sent them an email to see if they would ship to the United States. These are supports for the hatch, for the trunk, I mean. What it's doing is it's opening up too fast. It's snapping open. And while it's fun and all that, it's just going to damage the hinges. So these are going to be a quick pop in, pop out. Air filter for the R models. Pro Parts Sweden. All of these parts are from Rocky Mountain European, very affordable prices. If you need lifetime warranty, even things like this filter, FCP is the way to go. Speaking of FCP, that's where I got this. The brand is Behr, B-E-H-R. And anytime you replace the expansion tank, you want a new cap. Power steering. What I've had happen in the past is I've replaced the power steering cap, and the power steering will suddenly get stiff on these Volvos. I don't know if it likes a certain amount of leak or if the cap was just a different spring or something. I really don't know why one used cap made it stiff while the original cap did not. This is a brand new cap. Let's keep our fingers crossed on that. 10 drain plugs for the oil. Maybe, yeah, more than 10. And a couple of oil cap seals. These are all very important because they're just common use items. Yeah, most importantly, I didn't want to pay $37 for IPD to send me this, and Amazon had it for like $13, $14. And it's got the little rubber baby buggy bumper. Now it's actually a metal collar that starts here. So it's got this metal collar for the inside where the bolt runs through and the big washer on the top. That's kind of how I expect it to look. And the rest of it is rubber. So that's really nice. And I think that's a great design because it is thick, it's metal, it's not just going to be soft rubber that compresses and eventually fails. It's got the new Loctite on there. I'm going to find out the torque specs for this. And of course, I bought two because I'm doing both sides. Another thing to replace with your expansion tank. OE Volvo brand from FCP. I think it was $12 or something. It's the level sending unit thing. This has a float inside, and so this little guy here just uses the magnetic pickup. In fact, that's it. It's installed, and this will plug in. So we'll go ahead and drain the coolant out of that. We'll just use a suction method, get it out, and then at the end of everything, I can finally put back these caps. Using the soap and the Brillo side of the sponge, I got a little too aggressive with it. It took the luster away, so it doesn't look like this anymore. It just looks like flat, uneven colors. I think I scrubbed it too hard. So I don't really know what to do. Maybe some oil product, but I really just think I've gone too far in here, and the only thing left is just to paint it or leave it. Maybe just a little bit of 303 aerospace protectant might bring out some amount of luster, but not too much. I'm not that concerned about it, as long as it looks complete. You do have to remove the charge pipe to get this one in. I'll see if I can wiggle my way around it, but I'm not expecting it to be without a full removal of that pipe. Okay, what we're gonna do now is push the axle all the way back through the splines as much as we can like this, grease the crap out of it, and then install our bolt. IPD has a great article on axle ping. It says 25 pounds torque plus 90 degrees, 36 foot-pounds for the rear. Does not say anything about extra 90 degrees. Oh, I am so happy that clunk is finally gone. Listen to this, listen to this. Did you hear that? Nothing! It's good as new, that's all I gotta say. That lower engine mount, that's probably called the transmission mount or something. It transfers a lot of vibration because it's very stiff. It's a polyurethane complete bit. So I can feel, you know, before you wouldn't get vibration until you hit below 1500 RPM and then try to lug the engine, which you shouldn't do in a gearbox, a manual gearbox. Sometimes you get a feel for it depending on what it is. Like my BMW, that thing could go down almost to 1100 RPM before you started getting that lug vibration, which I really miss. But I'm hoping that with a few cycles and heat and time, the mount won't be so stiff, you know, might loosen up just a little bit, so that way I don't have to feel all these vibrations. A lot of guys like that, it's good feedback, but this is a daily driver, it's not a race car for me, so I just kind of want it to be smooth. And the old mount was very smooth because it had a lot of slop in it. So there's a bit of a trade-off with comfort and luxury, and we're dealing with the effects of that when Volvo adds a bunch of extra bushings, like the subframe bushings, for example. All in all, I'm not unhappy with it. It's just going to take a little bit of getting used to, because I thought something may be wrong, but it's just extra vibration.
Besides using this car for my for sale video with Arthur, I didn't really drive it much. I had my little LA adventure, that was fun, but you know, I've spent half the year out there in California, and most of that time was just in other cars. And when I was picking the keys up for something, it was opting out of the Volvo and into a Roadster. I don't really need to handle more than one friend at a time, so it made sense for me to just have one seat available. So it's time to put up the S60 for sale. Somebody else will be out there enjoying her as much as I have over the past year, and I do want to thank you guys for watching these videos, the restoration. It's been a lot of fun. It's been a huge learning experience for me, and boy, do I have such an appreciation for Volvo. You can guarantee I'm going to get back behind the wheel of another R. It's probably going to be a V70, and it might even be a later year, 2007 or so, whenever the time comes for that. This was a deal I really couldn't pass up. I'm glad I saved her from less caring, more abusive ownership, and I was able to keep it stock and bring her back up to a stage 0. And the 6-speed was just phenomenal, and this engine makes so much power, and the gearing is just perfect, and you know, I love it. I'm sad to see it go, but it does not really make sense to have so many cars. You know, in addition to the turbo and the spinny whoosh sounds it would make, and the beautiful shifter, I think I'm going to miss the seats the most. These are probably the most comfortable seats of any car I've ever been in. Not the most supportive. If you want side lumbar support, you're usually giving up a little bit of comfort, but they weren't flat either. They held you in just right. Go ahead and comment down below if you've ever sat in a seat that is more comfortable than the P2R models. As always, thanks for watching. See you guys soon.